Yeah. No, we would go first for the opposition. Hey, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll have Melissa go first, and I'll save the rest of the time, so I'll give you slightly more than that. Sarah's gonna do the corner spot, so you're gonna do that. We're good.
Yeah, he's coming in.
I don't know where you're supposed to put the. Yeah. No, but we're only having two. I have that corner spot, but you're still in the middle. I'll get you covered. You think it will stay? You think it will stay?
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. Um, with everybody here, I'd like everybody to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. What?
We are now in session. Welcome to day 2 of 3rd legislative semester for Marengo High School. I'd like to welcome all visitors, all reporters that are here today, all students, and all family members. I'd like to welcome everybody who is watching on IHS ATV. I'd like to welcome all congressmen and women, Democrats and Republicans alike. This is a quick reminder to remain professional. There should be no disruptive talking or electronic devices or any other disruptive activity. Just a reminder, anybody who will be performing in these actions, we will put up for referral and you will be reported to the Dean's office for 45 minutes. With that being said, will our Chief Executive please come down to the main podium to discuss last week's vetoes?
Hello, fellow congressmen. I want to start off saying that I understand that it may seem unfair to have a president that did not participate in this legislative semester. Just from examining the bills and hearing the speeches, I can tell everyone put a significant amount of time in getting their bills passed by me, the president. Yet, when reviewing the bills, I had to realize that passing a bill means legalizing what is specifically stated on the bill. Thus, the guidelines of some bills do not necessarily include all of the arguments brought up last week in full session. While I wish I didn't have to veto anyone's bill, the reality of the situation is that within my powers as president, 2 of the bills will not pass. The first bill I chose to veto is House Bill 307, Increase of Penalties for Sexual Offenses. The concept of increasing the penalties would be something to consider, but not to the extent of a lifetime in prison, as is explained in Part 3 of the bill. While certain sexual offenses like rape should have a harsher punishment, I would not place them on the same level of murder, which commonly yields a lifetime sentence. Moreover, according to the Part 4 of the bill, the average cost for a lifetime in prison is around $50,000 per state per year. With the current economy, taxpayers cannot afford for the funding of prisons to raise their taxes. The government is trying to prioritize our funding, and sending more money to the prisons would not be a productive move. All in all, this bill does not pass because the guidelines are too extreme and expensive. The second bill I chose to veto is House Bill 407, shifting the judicial power to the Rules Committee. First off, I applaud the creators of this bill for having the intent to improve full session. However, there are some important details in this bill that are either vague or missing. For instance, under the section of problem and solution, the bill states that the president looks at the bill and decides if the grammar is correct, if it is legal, etc. Well, what does etc. include? Does this include all of the president's powers when reviewing a bill? A few sentences later, the bill talks about allowing the Rules Committee to do exactly the same thing that the president does when looking over a bill. One of the most important details that is included in etc. for a president is the power to veto. Therefore, according to the vague language contained in this bill, the Rules Committee would essentially have the power to kill bills and prevent them from executive review. Furthermore, while the creators of this bill said in full session that they could never kill a bill, the specifics to this process and the guidelines and requirements are barely discussed. For example, the bill specifically states after the bill is passed in full session, the Rules Committee would look it over. If they pass it, then it continues to the president later in the semester. From that statement, there is a lack of detail in the requirements of what it takes for Rules Committee to pass a bill. It never states if there needs to be either a majority vote or if it has to be unanimous. Then the bill says, if it does not pass, however, then the bill gets sent back to full session and Congress can decide whether or not to overrule the Rules Committee with a 2/3 vote or amend it, if not already amend it, and vote on it and send it again to the Rules Committee. From what this says then, if the Rules Committee vetoes a bill and sends it back to full session, Congress votes on it again. And if they don't override the Rules Committee and send it directly to the president, then it has to be amended and voted on again in full session by Congress and then sent back to the Rules Committee for debate again. The first issue with these guidelines is that according to section 3.5 Committee Amendments Part A in the RAM, bills may be amended by committee members during the committee hearings. Hence, amending a bill during the process of full session would violate the procedures of RAM. In addition, while this bill never clarifies how many times the process of amending a bill and revoting can occur, in Section 3.5 Committee Amendments Part B, only one amendment to a bill is allowed. Even though the creators said they could never kill a bill, amending a bill even once kills the original and creates a whole new bill. This new bill would need to be debated and presented in subcommittee hearings all over again because the nature of the bill has changed. This bill not only changes full session, but creates a loophole to bypass subcommittee hearings for any and all bills. As a result, this takes away opportunities for the president to see each original bill that passes in full session. Another factor to consider is that this process would require more time than the semester offers. Full session is already struggling to find time for all the bills, and this unnecessary process would only complicate things further. As you can see, these missing pieces of information lead to a very confusing and contradicting bill. Overall, as it was stated by one of the creators of the bill in full session, even though I am a more conservative president, it may be the worst thing that could happen for any bill. I am certain that this bill would do nothing but decrease the efficiency of legislative semester. Finally, congratulations to all the bills that were passed, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Chief Executive. We will now move on to our first bill.
Will we be voting to override the veto?
I move that the motion be postponed indefinitely.
I never moved to do that. I just asked if we're going to. No matter what, you vote to override the veto. It's in the RAM. So, parliamentarian? Parliamentarian, what's the ruling on this?
All right, since neither one was seconded, all right. Well, since Shelby's was seconded.
Never mind, move on. I'm pretty sure you automatically vote, no matter what, to override the veto. You don't have to make
You
a
made
motion.
a motion, therefore it has to be
I
seconded.
never made a motion. I asked you if we were going to vote. Did you read the RAM? Exactly. Yes, I have, actually. It's been set by precedent. It doesn't have to be in the RAM. It doesn't have to say in the RAM. It was set by precedent, just like the fact that we're going to override a veto by 2/3 vote. It's not in the RAM. It's set by precedent.
I'd like to request the floor.
Denied. All right.
They're not trying to let us vote for the bill.
All right. Well, our congresswoman made a motion. It was seconded. Therefore, we have to move to do a vote for tabling. All right. Let's go to debate. Okay.
No.
It's already been done.
Where's hers? Ms. Voss, can you please come up here to show it in the RAM? Point of order, we are still in session.
Yeah, but first will fail, then we have a hope. Well, you see, in our RAM, we don't have anything about an executive officer or the vetoing process, so technically, no one can override a veto. It's a lot of it. Point of order, we're still in session. Please quiet down. I beat you to it, I guess.
Since it is in the RAM, I will yield 1 minute of debate time to Ms. Voss.
What are we debating on?
Okay. We need to stop wasting our time on this bill. We do not have the time for it. This process that they are proposing is unnecessary and will take up too much of full session. Their bill is poorly developed and they're unprepared. Yes, they have an idea, but their bill is so vague that they don't even know what the true process that will happen is. If we pass this bill, we will not get to the rest of the bills. They will all die. This process is unnecessary and far too time-consuming. I also want to call your attention, as the President did, to page 222 in the RAM, section 3.5 A and B. This bill was designed to amend bills during full session. However, this section of the RAM states that bills may only be amended during committee hearings and can only be amended once. These congressmen are not only trying to change full session, but also the rules in place in our RAM. We don't have the time to mess around with this unprepared, unnecessary, and complicated bill. Open your eyes, congressmen and women. House Bill 407 will
Point of
not
order,
benefit
your
us.
time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since there is no more discussion time, I move.
Whoa. Isn't that a debate? It's only I get time to rebut. Isn't it a debate? Therefore goes back and forth.
You get 1 minute of debate time, Mr. Temple.
Thank you. Hypocrisy at its finest. Stop wasting time. I believe she is the one who started this debate. I just wanted to go to a vote. I don't know what we're wasting time. So I hope you all vote yes to override the veto. Thank you. I yield my time back to the speaker.
All right. Now we will go to a vote for tabling this bill, tabling the override of the veto indefinitely. Will all who are in favor of Mrs. Voss' side in Committee 1 please raise their hand?
What we're voting on is to not go to a vote. Point of order on myself.
These people don't know the rules.
No. Since this was not seconded, we would just go back to discussion unless it was seconded. All right, can Committee 1 members please raise their hand in favor of Ms. Voss's side? Committee 2? Committee 3? Committee 4? All right, with 21 yes votes, this fails.
Wait a minute.
No, yeah.
All right.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request the floor.
going on to bills.
Thanks for being fair.
Roll call is not necessary. I will now move on to House Bill 306, equalizing genders for car insurance. Will Mr. Correa and Mr. Florida please come up here?
I know.
All right, if you're set. All right, well, since your opening speakers are not here, we will now go to debate. I'll yield 2 minutes to Mr. Meridian for opposing remarks.
I'd like to, closing remarks. I'd like to yield 2 minutes of my time to Ms. Dunker.
My fellow colleagues, I am encouraging you to support House Bill 306 and make car insurance costs equal for males and females from the start. It is a fact that young male drivers have a higher death rate in the past. Why? The car insurance guide tells us that some of the reasons are young males don't wear seatbelts as often, drive faster, drive more while intoxicated, break more traffic laws, and drive more recklessly. That might have been true in the past, but the insurance guide also tells us that the death rates have risen more in the last 25 years and dropped 11%. Also, more women are driving than in the past. I'm sure if we all think about it, we can all think of some guys and some girls that are really good drivers and some that are really bad drivers. We also probably know some that have been in accidents. If we compare who we know have been in an accident, it is probably pretty close, boys and girls. Since it seems the death rates and accidents are becoming more even between young men and young females, the car insurance rate should also be equal. It isn't fair for boys to pay more, while girls are getting in almost as many accidents as guys. It's time to look at who is driving carefully and make costs even for both. Thank you. I yield my rest of the time to Mr. Meridian.
I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time.
All right.
You have the floor, Mr. Speaker.
He did the remainder of his time. I will now yield 2 minutes to Mr. Temple for supporting remarks.
I'll yield 2 minutes of my time to Ms. Pacalita.
Thank you. My fellow committee members, I am before you today to urge you to vote no on HB 306. I believe that this bill violates the free market that our country values and denies the work of many scientists and statisticians. This is America. That is who we are. We are a part of a nation so grand and so free, many nations have followed our suit in their government. But this bill wants to violate our freedom. It is up to insurance companies to determine the price they charge for their services. And insurance companies do not use blind prejudice when determining their prices. They use statistics. They use evidence set forth by their own customers. In a study released by Quality Planning, women are shown to be better drivers and men are shown to be more likely to break motor vehicle laws. Men display 5% more violations that result in car accidents than females. It would be insanity to demand insurance agencies to charge the same for insurance. To demand equality in prices for males and females would be to demand equality in prices for all ages, even when statistics show that teens are reckless drivers and elder people have bad eyesight and hearing. I also would like to bring it to your attention that as we age, female car insurance rates rise and male car insurance rates decrease. Therefore, female car insurance rates would be increasing while at the same time male insurance rates would be decreasing, which would ultimately lead in female car insurance rates being a lot higher than male car insurance rates. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time to Mr. Temple.
I'll yield the remainder of my time back to the Speaker.
Thank you. I'll now yield 2 minutes to Meridian for opposing arguments.
I'd like to yield my 2 minutes to Mr. Casanda.
Fellow teenage drivers of this committee, I stand in front of you today in support of HB 306, equal car insurance rates for all genders. Nearly 90 years ago, women battled for equal rights and eventually got the 19th Amendment passed and gained equal rights as men. All I ask for now is that men have the equal right to prices for car insurance. I highly urge you to vote yes for HB 306 and restore equal rights to men and women. I yield my time to Mr. Meridian.
I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Lopez.
I'm speaking on behalf of another committee member. My fellow colleagues, I am standing before you today in support of HB 306, which explains that the car insurance rates should be equal for both genders when he or she begins driving in their life. According to DMV.org, there is discrimination against the male population. Most, if not all, insurance companies automatically have a higher rate for a beginning male driver, which is an outrage. We as males should not have to pay more for insurance, even if I have no driving offenses against my name. We as a committee need to stand up against this nonsense. We need to end this discrimination against the male population. Again, I urge you to vote yes to HB 306 and make this right. Thank you. I yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Meridian.
You have the floor, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'll now yield 2 minutes to Mr. Temple for supporting.
No, I'll now yield 1 minute of time to Ms. Robbins.
Good morning. I rise in opposition of HB 306, car insurance regulation. Speeding causes accidents. Using the general estimate system data for a nationally representative sample of police-reported crashes, the researchers expected to find male-to-male crashes would amount to 36.2% of accidents, female to female would make up 15.8%, and male to male would make up 48% of crashes. Men of any age group are far more likely to be driving while intoxicated, to speed, drive recklessly, and to flat out the law because they seek adrenaline because they don't really get it enough. They also tend to drive cars that give them psychological boosts to commit these violations more often because it is risk-taking and the adrenaline that causes them to be reckless. The HB 306 bill is poorly written, and each part contains a short answer that does not give much information. There are grammar mistakes, and the sentences aren't even complete. I understand that this is discrimination against males.
Your time is up, Mrs. Robbins.
Okay, thank you.
I'll yield 1 minute of my time to Ms. Clark.
I'm speaking on behalf of someone else. I rise in opposition of House Bill 306, making car insurance the same price for males and females. It's a fact women drive less than men. Accident and DUI statistics consistently reflect that male drivers, on the whole, take more driving risks than their female. In a study released by Quality Planning, an analytics company that validates policyholder information for auto insurers, women came out on top. The study analyzed different kind of vehicle code violations and then compared how many times men were cited versus women. The conclusion that was men break more traffic laws and drive more dangerously than women. Because they violate laws designed to make the road safer, men cause more accidents and expensive damage. We are not surprised to see that men have slightly more violations, about 5%. That result in accidents than women, said Raj Bhatt, president
Your
of Quality
is up.
Planning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that 2 minutes? All right. I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Heinberg and Mr. Bao for closing arguments, or closing remarks.
My fellow representatives, I urge you to support House Bill 306. Driver for driver, women cause more accidents, so why should males be discriminated against for having more drivers on the road? Male drivers outnumber female drivers 3 to 1, which means the male population should be responsible for about 75% of all car accidents. When in fact, males are far below that 75 percentile. Like for auto insurance states, the driver for driver males cause less accidents. Male drivers drive thousands of miles more than women drivers annually, which provides more opportunities for men to be subject to accidents. The male population only causes more accidents because they far outnumber female drivers. The male population deserves equal car insurance rates. The reasonable decision is to vote yes on House Bill 306. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go into a recess for 3 minutes before a vote.
All right, death rates have skyrocketed in the past 25 years. How does this affect car insurance?
Well, when you have more death rates, you obviously have more of a liability on the road. So if there's more deaths, I'd assume that car insurance rates would be higher so that people can pay for the damage caused by the car accidents and deaths.
All right, and then you said insanity for equal insurance rates. Do you care to elaborate on that?
I believe that to have equal insurance rates for males and females of teens, it would be insanity because male insurance rates, from my experience, they decrease as the males grow older, and female insurance rates increase as females get older. So it would be insanity to demand to raise female insurance rates when they'd already be rising. And I also believe that it's insanity because not everyone is an equal driver. Men have been shown to drive more recklessly. About 5% more accidents are caused by men. And that would be like demanding elder people and teenagers to pay the same when teenagers are reckless drivers and elder people have slightly worse, that was really bad grammar, worse hearing and vision.
All right, so then you agree that men are prone to driving more recklessly?
Yes. Statistics show that men are 5% as well as 5% more likely to disobey laws that result in safe driving.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, death rates have skyrocketed in the past 25 years. Do you think this affects car insurance rates?
I think it should be like.
We are now going
either
to a
way,
vote.
whatever
Please go
way
to your respective
it's
committee
expected,
computers.
They should be even because the rates like it said in my what I studied said it has rose 25% for girls than it has in the past. So I feel like it should be even for both guys and girls.
And then men are prone to drive more recklessly. Do you agree?
That's what it said in the past, but it said also that the women's have risen to like almost equal up to their recklessness too.
All right, thank you.
Wait, is there only 99 people here today? No, we're doing it based on the roll of last session. 103. There's 103 on the list. You have to have majority. 99 people are on the attendance. I don't know. If she tries it.
At 98.
Missy, you're going first on this one. Hey, do you have your sheet? Or I have it, but I have like everything, like the 3 pages. Yeah, I know.
How much time do I have? 2 minutes?
I'll give you everything I got.
Oh, thank you. I'm thinking I'm definitely going to read this one, this paragraph, and then,
Yeah, take these paper clips out.
oh, shit.
That's fine. Just leave it on there.
Got it. Okay. And then I have a new statistic that I have to look. Do you have a pen?
It's in here.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
That's yours and this is yours too. I'll get the rest of these out of your way. Yeah, I know. They're counting. Hey, Missy, unless you want Eric to go first, then I can yield all, like, whatever time I saved for you. You want more
Okay,
time?
yeah.
Alright, Eric. Eric.
Oil.
As far as I know, unless he states otherwise. But, I don't know.
Oh! Oh my god. Eric, make it quick. Hold on, I gotta fix my hair if I'm gonna be speaking.
All right, with 50 yes votes, 36 no votes, and 17 abstained, the bill fails.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request the floor.
Granted.
I would like to go to a vote to postpone Ms. Chief Officer's veto on House Bill 407.
Second.
Thank you.
But I can save all the time from Eric and give it to you. We only have two or three. About a minute.
All right.
Have 2.5 minutes.
We will now go to a vote for. Shh. Since this motion was seconded, we now have to go to a vote for it. Ms. Secretary, can you pull up a new sheet to do this officially?
Doesn't need a name, just go.
Point of order. Please quiet down. If you want to.
Point of order. All right, since this is an official motion, we have to do this by computer, so please go to your respective computers to vote.
If it comes up, then we'll talk to him.
I don't know if you wanted a high five or a handshake. What's that?
Okay, back to full session.
As far as I know, unless he has something that he wants to say.
Chase, you gotta be in your chair.
We will get time.
Do we have all the votes?
Oh my God! Why won't anyone speak? It's fine. Anything. No one wants to speak. What?
No, we're gonna keep doing what we did with the first bill. Oh, okay. No, I just picked my own whip. All right, all right.
Screwed. With 49 yes votes, 36 no votes, and 18 abstains, the two-thirds
Quiet
bill
down, please.
on to our next bill, House Bill 311, eliminating petroleum as a primary source of fuel.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
I will now yield 5 minutes to Mr. Paslick for opening remarks.
My fellow colleagues, I stand before you today urging you to vote yes for House Bill 311. Why, you might ask? Well, there's a number of benefits to this bill. One that you may not think of is it actually is good for people who like using oil. Now, it may not seem to make sense, but this bill is actually designed to help preserve our oil sources. In fact, at the current rate, by the year 2015, the demand for oil is set to surpass the current supply. Sorry. So that means that in 2015, there won't be enough oil to go around. So this bill will help us to take steps in the right direction to eliminate the possible crisis of what would happen when oil is not prevalent enough. Because I certainly don't want to see gas prices when oil is not even, there's not even enough supply of oil. Because, I mean, obviously, gas prices are bad enough right now. Also, the obvious reasons are protects the environment. We rely on our environment to live. We're intertwined with our environment. If our environment dies, we die, and so on. So it's important to protect that and take steps in the right direction to look out for our environment as it supports our lives. Also, it's going to save a lot of money, and I know that we're going to hear a lot of complaints from that general direction about ethanol. And ethanol is not what we're focusing on. We aren't saying, let's convert the country to 100% ethanol. That would be pointless, and he would be right. That would be extremely expensive. We're focusing on more of the renewable resources, such as hydropower, electricity, things that are easier to research, understand, harness, and continue to produce in the long term. These things will save not only us as consumers money, but the government and the country money as a whole. So when he starts talking about his little ethanol thing, just kind of don't worry about how much we're going to be using, because that's a very, very small part, and it's not going to raise prices more than if you have to buy feed corn, maybe you'll have to spend $1.25 more a year or something like that. It's going to be such a small amount, it wouldn't even matter. The important thing is how much money we're going to save on fuel and on resources that we use to fuel our vehicles and things like that. So not only is it going to preserve our oil, it's going to protect our environment, but it's also going to save us money. So really, it would be illogical to vote anything but yes on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Temple for opposing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start off by saying, no, my speech is not mainly based on ethanol. The only one thing about ethanol I have today is that he states that they're not going to be focusing on ethanol, but nowhere in the bill does it say that they're going to be focusing on only renewable resources. Nowhere in the bill does it say that ethanol will not be used, so all that is false. I rise in opposition of House Bill 311 because just the deadline that they have proposed to me is not fair to us as teenagers in high school. Now, I'm pretty sure some of us, or all of us today, would drive gasoline cars if we have a car, right? Now, if we do some math together, we're going to be graduating high school in 2013. Our freshman year of college, if we're going to a four-year university, will end in 2014. Sophomore year in 2015. Junior year in 2016, and then senior year will be ending in May of 2017. Now, if you read the bill, it'll say that the transfer will begin and be resolved in January 1st of 2017. Now, I don't know about if this is right, but the bill is trying to get the use of petroleum down. Am I correct? Okay, thank you. In order to do that, we're going to have to get gasoline vehicles off the road. Am I correct? I'll yield 10 seconds of time to Mr. Paslick. Okay. So they're trying to get it below 50%. In order to do that, they're going to have to get current gasoline cars off of the road. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the average cost, according to, to a study done by Purdue University, the average cost of college is $20,000 per year. Now, for going to college for 4 years, 20,000 times 4 is 80,000. Now, January 1st, 2017, we'll be halfway through our senior year of college. We'll probably be around $75,000 to $80,000 in debt, and they want us to buy new cars to get the use of petroleum down below 50%. I don't know about you, but I'm going to be worried about my college debt. I'm not going to be worried about buying a new car in order to get the petroleum use down. So I honestly don't see why they're trying to make us buy new cars when we're already going to be over $80,000 in debt. Therefore, I rise in opposition of House Bill 311, and I urge all of you to vote no, and I'll reserve the remainder of my time. May I ask how much time I've reserved? 30 seconds, thank you.
I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for supporting arguments.
I'd like to yield 3 minutes of my time to Mr. Redrosty.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in the days of John D. Rockefeller, oil was plentiful, abundant. It was drilled for and harvested all across America due to its use as a fuel source. Fast forward 80 years, and America's pretty much run dry. We rely on countries like Iraq and Venezuela to supply oil for us, buying it at ridiculously high prices, desperate for it. The time for oil is coming to an end. I propose that you vote for this bill that will eliminate oil as a primary fuel source by 2017. If oil was eliminated as a primary fuel source, it will change things exponentially. Using alternatives like electricity and natural gas is much more abundant than oil. Ethanol and natural gas is found literally everywhere, unlike the constantly depleting reserves of oil. In addition, alternative energy is cleaner than oil. Less environmental damage done can help improve the ozone and stop global warming. Plus, using alternative energy would make America more self-reliant and prevent us from begging other countries for money. It will put us back in the position of a world power that we've longed for so long. Since there is a greater diversity in alternative energy sources, there is less of a chance of countries monopolizing oil or fuel. In general, using alternative energy will lead to peace, as there will be no more wars fought over a single fuel source. How many people have died fighting for oil? Just a question. There are a few arguments against alternative energy. The opposition has stated that corn prices will skyrocket because ethanol is derived from corn, but it's found everywhere, and thousands of ears of corn are thrown away every year. In addition, by the time we are seniors in college, it's not like the cars we drive are going to be obsolete. So I don't understand why that would be an issue. Oil is still going to be used as a fuel source, just not as abundant. In conclusion, we should eliminate oil as a primary fuel source due to its cleanliness, abundance, and numerous other benefits. I would like to yield the remaining of my time to Mr. Meridian.
I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Ms. Hotchkiss.
Before I begin my speech, I would just like to point out that once we get out of college, and if we're going to be in debt, it's not like the government's going to come around and take away our gas cars. And also, if we're already going to be in debt, why would we want to be spending $6, $7 a gallon for gas? All right. So for a minute, I want you to imagine that you're standing in a room filled with your favorite candy. You're allowed to eat as much of the candy as you want, but you have to throw the wrappers back when you are finished with them. Eventually, there's going to be more wrappers than candy, and it's going to be more work than it's worth to find the candy among the wrappers. This is the problem we have with our oil today. There's still plenty of candy or oil left in the world, but it's buried in all of the wrappers. The newest oil field source that we have found...
Your time is up.
Thank you.
I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Temple for opposing arguments.
As my fellow colleague from across the aisle walking down the stairs right now said, the government won't be going around enforcing this bill, so therefore, I believe it's impossible. If they're not going to go around and enforce it, how are they going to guarantee that the petroleum use is going to get below 50%? If they're not going to enforce it, why would I buy a new car? Why would I go out and buy a new secondary fuel source car if I don't have to? Therefore, House Bill 311 is impossible. Now, as the first speaker said, he was bringing up ethanol and how it will be used, so therefore it will be used. That's a contradiction to what the opening speaker said. Let's see here. Oh, according to a study done by, or actually not a study, according to ethanol.org, the current price of ethanol is $2.99 per gallon. That's as a secondary fuel source. Now, according to ncpa.org, diesel contains around 140,000 British thermal units per gallon, BTU, or in other words. Gasoline contains 115,000, and ethanol contains only 78,000. So if you're getting less energy from 1 gallon of ethanol when it's currently at $2.99 a gallon, wouldn't you be paying the same amount by filling up more? So the rising gas prices, yes, they're going to go up, but ethanol is less energy, so obviously the prices are going to go up if we have to use it more. And the supply of ethanol, or corn's going to go down, so the supply of ethanol is going to go down. We are a growing population, right? Overpopulation has become a problem. Cities are growing, farmland is shrinking. Therefore, less corn equals less ethanol equals increase in price of ethanol, and with less energy, you'd be paying even more. And I'll yield the remainder of my time to Ms. Bloom.
Thank you. I rise in opposition of House Bill 311. Some say that eliminating oil as a primary fuel source is a great idea. Although this may be true, the multiple disadvantages need to be taken into consideration. Biofuels have a lower energy output than traditional fuels and therefore require greater quantities to be consumed in order to produce the same energy level.
Point of information, can you cite your source?
No, I cannot. Biofuels have a lower energy output than traditional fuels and therefore require greater quantities to be consumed in order to produce the same energy level. Alternative fuel sources are not worth all the work to produce. Another thing to consider is the carbon emissions during production. Several studies have been conducted to analyze the carbon footprint of biofuels. Biofuels may be cleaner to burn, but the machinery used to cultivate the crops and plants to produce the fuel contains a large amount of carbon emissions.
Point of order, information, can you cite your source?
Cannot. The major disadvantages for eliminating oil is the high cost. To refine biofuels to more efficient energy outputs and to build. I yield the rest of my time to Mr. Temple.
Going off what she said about
Point
the
of order,
energy.
time is up.
Mother.
I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for supporting arguments.
I'd like to yield 3 minutes of my time to Ms. Baclita.
Thank you. The key to survival is adaptation. This concept has been stated and supported by scientists from modernity to antiquity. Charles Darwin, who created the theory of evolution by natural selection, was the first to connect the ideas of evolution, natural selection, and fossils, to put it simply. We all learned about Charles Darwin when we were in biology class, freshman or sophomore year. Now, we must apply what we learned and adapt to our changing world by voting yes on HB 311, eliminating oil as a primary fuel source. Not only will this give us the energy independence that has been a hot topic as of late, but it will give us the advancements and technology to make us the fittest to survive, as Charles Darwin would say. While advancing our own interests, we can help lessen the impact we make on the natural world around us. As the world's oil resources are dwindling, we as a country must thrust ourselves away from the crippling, non-renewable resources. Oil is costly to extract from the Earth's crust and can be extremely dangerous. So imagine for me your brother, your father, or your boyfriend who was working on an oil rig in 2007. Let's say he was working on the Usumacinta, an offshore rig in the Gulf of Mexico. He had been telling you about a transfer to the rig and was excited about the raise he was going to get. You were worried about the dangers of working on an offshore oil rig, but you stubbornly pushed the idea out of your mind. On October 21st, he went out to the oil rig for his first day. On October 23rd, merely 2 days later, you were expecting a phone call, but never got one. Why? A cold front had moved through the region, bringing with it 130 km/h winds and 8-meter waves. The adverse weather conditions had made something go horribly wrong, resulting in an oil leak. The crew was immediately evacuated, but the winds and waves broke up the life raft, sending workers into the treacherous sea. A cold, lonely death in the deep, dark ocean awaited at least 21 of the crewmates.
You are at home, warm in your house, thinking the missed call was just the result of a long, tiring hours that sent most workers to bed early. Eventually, your doorbell rang. Curious to see who it was, you answered the door. A man in an all-black suit and a sad gleam in his eye awaited you. You are given the news that your father, your brother, or your boyfriend was no longer alive, and that reduced you to nothing. You barely noticed the tears streaming down your face as you slid to the floor in disbelief. You had only seen him a few days ago, happy and excited for his transfer, and all of the U.S. characteristic reliance on oil. That was why he died, trying to provide oil. So what do you care about, American lives or your debt? To care about your debt more than the lives of others would be slightly selfish.
Point of order, your time is up.
Thank you.
What was that?
All right. Mr. Temple, you still have 30 seconds of your reserved time.
Thank you. I'd like to say that had nothing to do with the bill. I don't understand where that was coming from, what the point of that story was. No facts, nothing at all. I don't understand the point of it. Thank you. I'd yield the remainder of my time back to the speaker.
All right. Well, I do not believe Mr. Allen is here, so we will now recess for 3 minutes before a vote. It was granted. Point of order.
I'll second that.
All right.
Brandon's
What? That's not official. That's my bill.
Do you know it costs $450,000 a day to drill for oil?
All right. Well, in order to speed the process up, we will do this by hand vote and record it on the green sheet. So can you please? We still have to make something official. All right. So, well, Committee 1, if we're doing this by hand vote, anybody in favor of this, please raise their hand.
Committee 1 only.
We are voting on House Bill 311.
Hunter, what are we doing? No, tell him no.
Oh. We're skipping recess. Okay, we're calling the question. Okay, thank you. All right, Committee 2.
That's fine.
Committee 3. Committee 4. Point of order to all Republicans. Yes, with 58 yes votes, the motion passes. Oh, it takes 2/3. Okay, therefore it doesn't happen. We're going to go into a 3-minute vote for 40.
Pwned.
My apologies.
Bauman, take a seat.
In reports to Bill 311, do the pros outweigh the cons? Some pros that were stated were that that eliminating oil as a primary resource would protect the environment, save money, use renewable resources, preserve the oil reserve, leave Middle Eastern countries, and also that gathering oil on rigs is quite dangerous. But the cons are that gasoline vehicles would have to be taken off road, and that'd be quite costly. And how would this be enforced? And you would have to fill up more with less efficient gas. So do the pros outweigh the cons? That is your question. I now give the mic to Miss Sophie Slocum.
I hate every single one. You didn't know what you were doing, Lexi. Okay, come back here by me, Caleb.
Stand next to you.
Yep. Now interviewing Caleb Pethlek on House Bill 311. Caleb, can you give me a quick rundown on how the economy, as quoted in your bill, will be stimulated over the long term? What is your reasoning for this claim?
Well, the prices will obviously go down of the fuel because it'll be so much more prevalent, because obviously we know how limited oil is, which is the reason the prices have increased. So when we convert to a resource that's much more available and much easier to renew, the prices will therefore go down as demand decreases.
So you do think that alternative resources would make up for the cost in oil? It would still be cheaper to switch to an alternative resource?
Oh, absolutely. And not only would it be cheaper to switch for us, but you got to consider the grants that will be thrown in from the government as well as from green parties throughout the country. So it'll be a very efficient and smooth process.
Okay, one last question. Do you think the Democrats did a fair job defending your bill? Did anything particular stand out to you?
I thought it was a great job. We had a few good speeches that were given. Missy's was really good for the emotional aspect. And the couple before that brought out the logic, so I think we had a pretty solid argument going into it, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Caleb. Now interviewing Jake Temple for House Bill 311. Jake, do you think the argument concerning college debt had a big impact on the average voter?
Well, being that everyone's probably going to college, I believe it probably had a big impact on everyone. So.
Okay. And what comment from the Democratic side riled you up the most? Perhaps Leah's candy analogy?
I believe Melissa's story. That I just didn't see a point of it, so I didn't understand it, so I just got riled up by it.
Okay, well, thank you.
See, I feel smart because I learned how to use the mic. Alright, I need Selenia. She should be by Ashley. That's what we do in class. Hold on. No. Wait, what?
Brandon. Alan.
What about me?
Straight up. No.
Hey. How many votes were for the overrule? What? You got 56, right? That's majority. And if you didn't give him the floor for the 30-second advantage, which you shouldn't have had, you would have been better off. That's okay. We're only going to probably get to 2 or 3. I mean, we're short on time, so I doubt we're going to be able to done. Cool. Yeah. I have you first. I have both of your speeches, I think, so you can read whichever one you want. Okay, well, which one is she going to read? Does she know?
The one that I submitted was the other one, and the one I'm going to read, and then the one I made that one day for all in fact center.
Okay, but she knows which one she's going to read. Is she going first?
You've all just doomed yourselves. Danny, you got a signature. No, not. Voting. Patterson. Patterson. Back to your seat. 4 votes. It's all right.
It was 102.
What?
It was 102.
Go ask Obi if you can vote. Wait, no, just point it out and have her stand up.
So you have like 25 votes against us.
And some.
With 57 yes votes, 31 no votes, and 15 abstains, the bill passes.
How much time do you need?
Your side is just dead. Threw up the roof. Oh, jeez.
What's next?
Is it period?
No, it's 411. 411 doesn't exist. No, 403.
I apologize for this for not mentioning earlier, but we changed the schedule for certain reasons, and so now House Bill 302 will be up.
Do you want to say what that one is? Euthanasia.
House Bill 302, euthanasia, is up.
Stu, you got your speech?
So, I can't.
You want to read a speech? Euthanasia.
Wait, how much opposition goes first? Right, opposition, but do you want to speak second? Because then I can... No, I don't have to. Hold on.
I don't know whose this is.
Hold on.
He can change the agenda. You have it? Okay, good. Do you have your speech?
What?
Feeling good? Feeling real good?
Wait, did we have to start with... It goes to the opposition. Yeah.
Hey, wait.
For which one?
Sorry, it's too late.
In opposition? When? It's right after conceal and carry, which is after this one, technically, I guess. Okay, hold on.
All right, I will now yield 5 minutes to Ms. Roy Russick for opening remarks.
Hello, my fellow committee members. Put yourself in this situation. You're sitting in a hospital bed, terminally ill. There is no chance of your recovery. Every waking moment is unimaginable pain. You then realize that there is only one way out of your suffering. However, you then realize that the government has prevented you from doing so. Euthanasia, as defined in Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, is the act or practice of killing or permitting the death of hopelessly sick or injured individuals in a relatively painless way for reasons of mercy. Should euthanasia be legalized across the United States as a merciful way for the terminally ill to end their lives? The answer to that question is yes, for many reasons. Euthanasia emphasizes democratic ideals. It puts the right to die in the hands of the patient, not in the hands of the government. In addition, it emphasizes the constitutional right of pursuit of happiness. If someone is in unimaginable pain and wants to be happy by ending their own lives, why not give them that right? Additionally, prolonged medical bills are expensive, and that money saved could help the family in other debts. Additionally, it saves the hospital money, and that money saved could help other people whose lives still have a chance of being saved. For those of you who don't know, I cannot emphasize this enough. This bill is for terminally ill adults. Terminally ill means there is no chance of getting recovery. They are going to die. Over half of them die in pain. The guidelines of euthanasia are as such. The doctor needs evidence that the patient has been suffering under an unbearable amount of pain, usually by verbal consent, under which the quality of life must be diminished severely. Doctor also needs evidence that the patient's decision to use euthanasia was voluntary and well considered. This also can be used by verbal consent of the patient, or if they are unable to speak, they sign a waiver giving the hands of their lives in the doctor. This means that they had their illness for a while and gone through extensive treatments that have had little to no effect, causing the patient to seek euthanasia as a last resort. Ultimately, the patient is the one to end their own life. The doctor only assists in providing the patient with the means necessary to do so. The doctor and patient once discuss the patient's slim chance or recovery, if they have one. And lastly, the patient decided that euthanasia was the only option for them to be truly happy. Why not give them the right to choose to end their suffering? There's no reason for them to sit in a hospital bed, every waking moment of them being unimaginable pain, agony. The patient must be a legal adult and is diagnosed with a terminal illness, not a mental illness. Some of the opposition will try to tell you that this bill permits the death of the mentally ill. We do not state that at all in our bill. Their argument is very biased, but that's all I have, and I'm going to yield the rest of my time to the speaker.
Thank you. I will now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Temple for opposing arguments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, as the opening speaker said, evidence will need to be provided. Now, he brought up usually by verbal consent. To me, that's not a very good piece of evidence. The doctor can go to court and say, well, and the judge will be like, oh, what kind of evidence do you have? Well, the patient said I can do this, so yeah. That is no. It's not good enough. Nowhere in the bill does it say any other evidence will be used. It doesn't say anything about verbal evidence. So, therefore, this evidence that he's talking about is not true. Now, you have the remainder of my time to Ms. Hotchkiss.
My fellow colleagues, I rise in opposition to HB 302, legalizing euthanasia. In the Netherlands, where euthanasia is legal, hospice-style palliative care for ovarian cancer is unorganized and almost non-existent. Because as one Dutch doctor said, why should I care about treatment when I have euthanasia? The supporters of this bill say that euthanasia is supposed to help people die with dignity, to give them control over whether they live or die, to relieve them of suffering. But in the process, human life is being reduced to the space they take up in a hospital, or the money's being spent on their health care. The bill sponsors have said that euthanasia can only be voluntary, that there must be absolutely no way to be cured. But as one man who suffers from a terminal illness has said, how can euthanasia be completely voluntary when the patient is consciously and subconsciously affected by the tiredness in their family's eyes, or the doctor telling them that there truly is no way out? How can anyone decide against euthanasia when everyone around them is subconsciously influencing them to choose death? And how can one be sure that choosing death is going to bring happiness? No one knows what comes after death. How can we be sure that that is going to make them happy? Perhaps a mercy killing seems more attractive at the time. It did for me when my dog was unable to use her back legs.
But how can anyone who hasn't truly experienced it really understand the scar that is left behind when you watch the life drain from your loved one's eyes? And why does it seem acceptable for the terminally ill to choose death, but when a person suffering with terrible depression commits suicide, it is a terrible loss that we try to convince others to avoid? Finally, the legalization of euthanasia treads on the slippery slope effect. When it becomes legally for the terminally ill, what will become legal next? What will become of those who do not have the ability to voice their opinions? The senile, the newborn, those in a coma, and those with severe mental illnesses. Again, for the sake of the protection of life, I urge you to vote against HB 302. And I yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Temple.
I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time. All right. How much time do I? Thank you. I yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I will now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for supporting arguments.
Thank you. I'd like to yield 1 minute of my time to Ms. Cowan.
Thank you very much for this. As the rebuttal stated by the Republican Party over there, this has to do with people, not animals. Thank you. This is a decision made by people, and you guys are allowing the government to decide whether you can live or die. Are you kidding me right now? This is your own life. This isn't the government's life. Why are you allowing the government to put your life in their hands? Tell me why. Thank you. That's all I have to say. I yield my time back to Mr. Meridian.
I'd like to yield 1 minute of my time to Ms. Jakowski.
Thank you. My fellow congressmen and congresswomen, I strongly rise in support of House Bill 302 legalizing euthanasia. Euthanasia, also known as assisted suicide, is a peaceful alternative to dying in pain. For those who oppose euthanasia as a result of their religious beliefs, for example, we must remember to separate church from state. Also, the morality of whether or not it is right for someone to want to die on their own terms varies on your personal opinion. So we, as a mature group of adults, must respect the wishes of the terminally ill patients who are suffering. According to statisticbrain.com, 55% of terminally ill patients die in pain. Think about that, 55%. With this bill, anyone who qualifies can choose to end their life peacefully if they want to. As a reminder, a few of those qualifications are stated by the bill sponsors. The doctor does need evidence that the patient has been immensely suffering. Also, the doctor must inform their patient about their situation, mention their physical state, and whether or not the patient can possibly recover or not. Finally, the procedure is performed according to correct medical procedure, resulting in a painless, merciful death for the patient. There are already several locations which allow euthanasia, such as Oregon, Washington, and Montana, which is why I ask you as a committee to give the terminally ill a voice and right to choose whether they want to be relieved from their pain. Again, I strongly urge every one of you to support House Bill 302. Thank you. I yield my time back to Mr. Meridian.
I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time. Mr. Speaker, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I yield 3 minutes plus any remainder of the time to Mr. Temple.
First, I'd like to point out the speaker that just got done. She had not stated any sources, therefore all those facts are actually truthies. There's nothing. I did not break any rules, therefore she cannot call point of order on me. Thank you. Now I yield 2 minutes of time to Mr. Punasai.
All right. There's a problem here. In the Hippocratic Oath that every doctor has to administer and pretty much say, it states that I will look upon him who shall have taught me this art even as one of my parents. I will share my substance with him, and I will supply his necessities. If he be in need, I will regard his offspring even as my own brethren, and I will teach him this art, if they would learn it without fee or covenant. I will impart this art by precept, by lecture, and by every mode of teaching, not only to my own sons, but to the sons of him who has taught me, and to disciples bound by covenant and oath according to the law of medicine. The regimen I adopt shall be for the benefit of my patients according to my ability and judgment, and not for their hurt or for any wrong. I will give no deadly drug to any, though it be asked of me, nor will I counsel such. And especially, I will not aid in a woman to procure abortion. Whatsoever house I enter, there will I go for the benefit of the sick, refraining from all wrongdoing or corruption, and especially from any act of seduction of male or female or of bond or free. Whatsoever things I see or hear concerning the life of men in my attendance on the sick or even apart therefrom, which ought not to be noised abroad, I will keep silence thereon, counting such things to be as sacred secrets. This is directly from the Hippocratic Oath, and I would like you guys to think about that. I yield my remaining time to Mr. Temple.
I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time.
Thank you.
How much time do I have, please? Thank you.
I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for supporting arguments.
I'd like to yield 3 minutes of my time to Mr. Strew.
Thank you. My fellow congressmen and women, I arise in great support of HB 302. We are in a state of great difficulty, and a generation has turned. We are now at a time when medicine has given us the opportunity to let the ones suffering have a say in the end of their life, or in order to rid their pain and suffering. Many of us have been faced with family members who want to get out of their misery, but just can't, even me. My great-grandmother passed away 2 months ago. She was 92 years old, and after 6 years of being trapped in a nursing home with the deadly disease of Alzheimer's and leukemia, she wanted a way out. One of my very important memories I hold dear to my heart is when I visited, and upon leaving, my grandma grabbed my arm and said, "Please, take me home. Don't let me stay here. I am in too much pain." This event left me in tears. With anyone who has experienced this in some format can envision that person laying there in their hospital bed in pain and suffering, and whatever disease has caused them great harm. According to euthanasia.gov, by passing this bill, we can provide a way to relieve extreme pain, provide a way to relieve when a person's quality of life is low, free up medical funds for other people who actually need the money, and is another case for freedom of choice. Our society has changed and is transforming into a generation with more opportunities, with specific regulations such as patient voluntary agreements, the doctor overseeing patients who has the rule that there is no other option for the patient, family, and has a situation of with patient's standard of living and pursuit of happiness. From my personal experience to the hundreds of others, and including congressmen and women here today, we can all agree that there's once a time for not for euthanasia, but our society has changed, and so I rise in support, and I urge all of you to rise in support too. I yield my time back to Mr. Meridian.
Since I have gone through my list of speakers, I'd like to give the floor and whatever time I have left to Ms. Cowan.
Thank you. To state against what the opposing side has been saying, the Hippocratic Oath is not a legal document. It is an oath that is taken by doctors only. It is not a legally binding document. Also, the Hippocratic Oath also states that abortion is not allowed, yet abortion is still legal in the United States. So basing your facts on a document that is not a legally binding document it's not helping your argument whatsoever. And just to state, the government is not in charge of your life, and coming from thank you.
I'll now yield 3 minutes to Ms. Schmidt for closing arguments.
We were once a country plagued by disease, and now we are capable of keeping a person alive on a machine for years. But is that quality of life really worth living? Euthanasia should be considered a sacred constitutional right, and legalizing it would allow us to have the freedom to end the needless suffering that my fellow Democrats spoke of. To all the undecided Democrats, I ask, how can anyone who wants less government involvement allow the government to control the most intimate and personal decisions? And to the Republicans,
How can we as a free society prevent a physician from using their training and expertise to evaluate each case and provide an escape for each patient out of their agonizing hell? Many arguments against euthanasia involve religion. In the Hemlock Society, a group that highly supports euthanasia, 50% of its members are strong Christians that worship a God that is loving and understanding. They feel that as long as euthanasia was justifiable and didn't hurt any other people, then the God would accept them into heaven. Another misconception is that by performing euthanasia, the patient is depriving themselves of valuable time. According to Derek Humphrey, the founder of the Hemlock Society, patients almost always wait to a late state in the dying process. Some even wait too long and end up in a coma. Patients that choose to perform euthanasia do enjoy life and believe that life is sacred. Life is sacred, but it is not when it's on a machine. We believe that preserving these terminally ill patients' lives on machines, we are only restoring their quantity of life, not the quality. In fact, an estimated 10,000 persons in America remain in a constant vegetative state and cannot die due to legal reasons. If you believe that taking your life for any reason is always wrong on religious or moral grounds, then that is your opinion. But your personal opinion does not give you the right to prevent another competent, suffering adult from making the final life choice. In regard to what the Republican spokesman said about the Hippocratic Oath, Dr. Jack Kevorkian, the advocate for euthanasia, said, "A legitimate, comprehensive, and universal code of medical ethics no longer exists and never did. What traditionally passed for ethics among doctors is a vague body of unwritten rules of obscure origin. Modern patients expect more than rudimentary laws." Dr. Kevorkian never took such an oath and never did in his graduating class. Even today, it is very uncommon for doctors to swear by it due to its outdated nature. By implementing strict guidelines in House Bill 302 as legal safeguards, we can prevent euthanasia from being abused and provide patients with fundamental rights and the ultimate civil liberty. I encourage all of you to vote yes on the legalization of euthanasia.
Point of information for Ms. Schmidt.
What?
Point of information for Ms. Schmidt.
Ms. Schmidt.
Okay, point of information, Ms. Schmidt. Two questions. One, do you have any sources for the facts that you... Oh, I just didn't hear them stated. Can I hear it? The source? Okay, thank you. And is there any cost to euthanasia? I'm just reading, I'm a little confused. Are you going to charge patients anything to have euthanasia administered? I believe this is for Ms. Schmidt, not Mr. Myrostic. Thank you.
I will now yield, or I will now go to 3-minute recess before the vote.
want to back up just a little bit? Kelly, we good? Okay. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Okay, assisted suicide. We support choosing, this is someone else's question, this isn't mine, so I have to read through this. If we support choosing, why is suicide not okay when they're in just as much mental pain?
Well, we were focusing on the terminal illness because those are the patients that actually have like physical pain, and I think that it would open up too many questions if we open it up to mental patients. So.
Sure, so your argument there is that there's too many exceptions to the rule if we were include mental pain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
We good, Kelly?
What? I'm not good with questions, so.
Oh, it's a quick question. Okay, now interviewing Jesse Henning. Jesse, are you going to vote on this? And if you don't mind me asking, what will you be voting for?
I will vote no on this because it shouldn't be left to the doctor to take someone's life. So that's my viewpoint on that.
Okay, was there anything particularly said that really stood out to you?
Nothing really, because most of the facts weren't backed up by sources. So.
So your issue was that, and a lot of it was also just personal, such as Brian Strew's argument, a lot of personal reflection. Did that have an impact on you or not really?
It did, but it didn't change my viewpoint that much.
Okay, so not enough to really change anything.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Jesse.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Can everybody please go to their seats?
Yeah, because they say they want to make it harder to like. Okay, so when you come up with that, like I call the question on the basis of that the bill stands. Like that's the correct way. I don't need to give a reason. I don't know if it's usually. I don't have to give a reason. As long as or Jake will do it. As long as it's before the speaker yields time, we don't need 2/3. We just need majority. No, we're doing amending capital punishment. Hey.
All right. With 61 yes votes, 25 no votes, and 17 abstains, the bill passes. We will now be going on to House Bill 403, amending capital punishment. Will Ms. Sheffick please come to the front podium?
Hey, we don't need speakers for this next one.
I yield 5 minutes to her.
We don't need it.
Hello, fellow committee members. Our House Bill number is 403. It's about amending capital punishment to only be allowed under most heinous of crimes. Should capital punishment be allowed in all U.S. states? If accepted, should it be required to have evidence without a shadow of a doubt in order to execute the accused? With our bill, we want to give all states the opportunity to have capital punishment instead of only the select. We feel that capital punishment should only be allowed as a result of a severe heinous crime. DNA or other conclusive evidence must also be present. If convicted and this evidence is not present, the accused must stay in jail to serve their sentence unless evidence is found before their sentence is up. A heinous crime is an intentional crime of hate towards someone. Their intentions are to either harm or murder someone. It is also someone that goes against our country, meaning that they would give foreign countries information to harm our own United States. Not all states allow capital punishment. Each state has its own statute of law. This means that each state has its own guidelines of what is to be considered acceptable for dealing with crime and punishment. With our bill, we want to have all states under the same statutes of law that no one could go around the law. Currently, they could go around the law by committing a heinous crime and moving a state to where capital punishment is abolished. States that allow capital punishment have their own guideline of what is considered a heinous crime. Not all are considered due to a degree of murder. There's not any specific law every state follows for capital punishment, but we want all states to have the same laws on capital punishment. Once you take someone's life, you cannot take it back. A man named Troy Davis was convicted of an execution in 2011 for the claim of shooting a police officer. Because of witnesses' claims, he was executed. Capital punishment has to have very careful set of standards and accusations put together. Since 1973, 982 people have been put onto death row. 121 of the 982 have been found to have been innocent and were put off death row before the conviction occurred. One misconviction is too many. Back in 1973, we had not related DNA to a suspect of evidence during a trial. The year of 1987 was the first time we even tried using DNA evidence. Any evidence can be manipulated, but DNA evidence is extremely difficult to manipulate. DNA evidence must also be present to convict someone, but there also has to be no shadow of a doubt they were the one that had committed the heinous crime with other hard evidence. Forensics evidence such as fiber and bodily evidence must be present along with DNA. DNA evidence alone is not enough to convict the person of a heinous crime. Though many think it is inhumane to allow the death penalty, it can keep prisoners from developing more mental illnesses. This means that being sentenced to life without parole can be more detrimental to the prisoners and more inhumane than being put to death by lethal injection. They die in a matter of seconds and ultimately painless. The crimes of rape, torture, kidnapping, murder are what we are looking for, the reasons behind these people's convictions. They need to be taken care of in a serious manner depending upon how severe their crime is. Due to the bad economy, people are looking for more ways to save money. In an article I read, some states cannot afford to have capital punishment. Some websites state it's much cheaper to keep some in prison for a life sentence than go through capital punishment. Others argue having a life sentence would be more expensive because of all the ongoing legal fees, court costs, and everyday maintenance of the costs of a prisoner. The conclusion from this article was that it actually does cost more to keep someone living a life sentence than to allow capital punishment. They explained it's more expensive over time housing inmates in segregated sections of a cell or individual cells where guards would have to bring them all their necessities such as food and water. So our question was, should capital punishment be allowed in all U.S. states and required to have evidence without a shadow of a doubt in order to execute the accused? By allowing the convicted to be executed by a virtually painless technique, it's more humane thing to do. Other than the convict living many years in a jail cell, developing more mental illnesses because they have been sentenced to life without parole.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request the floor.
Granted.
I'd like to move to call the question on House Bill 403. I think it's got
The
second.
motion to call the question was seconded. We need a majority vote since there was no time yielded. We will now go to a vote. Will Committee 1 please raise their hand in favor of calling the question? Committee 2? Committee 3? Committee 4? With 81 yes votes, the motion passes. Please go to your computers and proceed to vote for amending capital punishment.
Okay, Adrian, can you explain the process that is happening right now?
Yes, we called the question, which means we skip the closing arguments and the debate to go right to the vote. We're doing this before time was given by the speaker, so therefore instead of 2/3 we need majority. So they're voting on the bill currently, and then when we get the results, we'll know whether the bill passes or fails.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
order, please go back to their seats.
Oh my God.
With 51 yes votes, 31 no votes, and 21 abstains, the bill fails. Point of order. We will now be going on to House Bill 301, Conceal and Carry. I will now yield 5 minutes to Mr. Sanda for open remarks.
Fine people of this committee, a great decision is on your hands today, one that would change America. Voting yes to HB 301, concealed carry. In our bill, we would state that you must be at least 21 years of age, a legal citizen of the state for at least 1 year, to carry a concealed weapon. The person must have passed a gun safety course and have a Floyd card. In order to receive the Floyd card, the person must have passed a mental and physical background check. So with this bill, we'd only be allowing people that pass the background check. We'd only be allowing the people to pass the background check to carry the concealed weapon. So I highly urge you to vote yes for HB 301, Conceal and Carry, and a safer America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request the floor.
Granted.
I'd like to move to call the question on House Bill 201.
All right, there was a motion to call the question.
Point
I
of order.
move to
there's a
kill the
on the
motion.
table.
Mr. Speaker, I move to kill the motion.
Point of order. It's already been seconded.
All right, we'll commit. Point of order. Will Committee 1 please raise their hands if they are in support of calling the question?
Be quiet.
Committee 2. Committee 3.
No, it needs majority.
Committee 4. With 49 yes votes, the motion failed. I will now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for opposing remarks.
I'd like to yield 3 minutes of my time to Ms. Voss.
I rise in opposition of House Bill 301 on allowing conceal and carry in all 50 states. According to concealandcarry.net, since adopting conceal and carry, the United States death rate has increased 12%. Annually, there are 579,000 crimes committed with firearms of all types. Remember when we were little, about 10 years old, and the cool thing was to do was to not wear a coat when it was cold out. It was like a competition of who was the toughest. Then that awesome new toy came out, and everybody had to have it, and you just begged your mom day after day because you had to have the cool new thing. That argument of everyone is doing it or everyone has it doesn't work any better now that we are grown than it did on our moms when we were young. Just because no one was wearing their coat did not make it right or acceptable for us not to wear our coat in the freezing weather. And just because everyone had this new toy didn't mean we needed it, because there would be a new toy out next month. Just because every other state has conceal and carry does not mean we should. It is an unnecessary form of self-defense that has been substituted for years and can continue to be substituted with safer methods. I urge you to rise in opposition of House Bill 301, because we are no longer children. We are young adults who have more intelligent things to fight over rather than what everyone else is doing. I yield my time to Ms. Meridian.
I'd like to yield 1 minute of my time to Ms. Jakowski.
I rise in opposition against HB 301, Conceal and Carry.
This unnecessary form of self-defense, as many people refer to it, will most likely cause an increase in gun violence throughout Illinois. According to NJ.gov, 68% of murders, 42% of robberies, and 22% of aggravated assaults were caused by gun violence in 2006, found through a national study. Also, for those who say that the Second Amendment of our Constitution allows people to carry firearms with them, the actual truth of that amendment is individuals are allowed to carry firearms for, quotations, universal military regulation and a well-regulated militia. Why should we subject our country to even more tragic fatalities? By allowing people to carry a firearm, anyone can have access to a gun when they are intoxicated, upset, or not in a healthy state of mind. There are plenty of forms of self-defense that do not need to include guns. Other forms include pepper spray, rape whistles, and even standard self-defense training such as martial arts. I again strongly urge opposition against the unnecessary House Bill 301.
Point of
Thank
order.
you.
Your 1 minute is up. You still have the floor, Mr. Meridian.
I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time.
You have 15 seconds.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Temple, I will now yield 3 minutes to you for supporting remarks.
I'll yield 3 minutes of time to Mr. Jordan.
I urge everybody to vote for Bill 301, Conceal and Carry. This bill will allow conceal and carry rights for handguns to selected citizens in every state. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, 40% of felons have been deterred due to the fear of armed victims. Crime laws have decreased in every state after conceal and carry has been passed. The FBI's National Annual Informed Crime Report 2011 shows that conceal and carry decreases crime rates by 22%, 46% lower robbery rates, 12% lower aggravated assault, and 30% lower murder rates. CNNnews.com and thomas.loc.gov. Permits will be issued to citizens in order to regulate whom receives conceal and carry rights. Statistics released by Florida Conceal and Carry Firearm and Weaponry Report shows that 2 million permits have been issued since 1987 to law-abiding citizens, and only 64 permits have been revoked, which is just 0.3% out of 2 million permits. Of the 64 permits that were revoked, only 168 concealed and carry permits were revoked because of use in crime, which is 0.008% of the overall. John Lott Jr. and David Mustard of the University of Chicago proved that allowing citizens to carry concealed weapons deters violent crimes, and it appears to produce no increase in accidental death. They also said if those states which did not have the right to carry concealed gun provisions had adopted them in 1992, approximately 1,570 murders, 4,177 rapes, and over 60,000 aggravated assaults would have been avoided yearly. On average, every 13 seconds, an American citizen uses a gun in self-defense, and according to the National Defense Survey, this is 2.2 to 2.5 million times a year. Every year, more and more people are using guns as a choice of self-defense. Guns are an efficient means of self-protection. People can react to any situation with speed and precision. This makes them more ideal for events when the average person needs to react faster than the opposition. Comedian D.L. Hooley tweeted, "Aurora is 13 years, 13 miles from Columbine. Since the 60s, over 500,000 people have been killed by guns, and the U.S. have no right to be shocked." CNN News wrote, "How will stricter gun laws bring an end to criminals having guns when the laws against murder have not even been able to stop them from killing innocent people?" Gun bans create a trouble-free world for criminals considering no one can defend themselves.
Point of order, your 3 minutes are up.
Nope.
Thank you. I will now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for opposing arguments.
I'd like to yield 3 minutes of my time to Mr. Keenum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, committee members, for allowing me this time today. My fellow representatives, I stand before you today in opposition of House Bill 301, Conceal and Carry, for the reasons are endless. In 1791, we had reason for guns. There were spontaneous Indian attacks on our homeland, and our Minutemen needed to be prepared to fight at any time, hence the term Minutemen. Even standard U.S. citizens needed to be armed and prepared to fight at all times. But however, today is nothing like 1791. We are no longer waging in violent wars with our neighbors to claim our territories, and I am opposed to House Bill 301 and its motion to legalize conceal and carry due to its outdated nature and disregard for important details. To start things off, I would just like to point out the fact that the Republican Party clearly does not understand what the term unconstitutional really means. If the opposition of this bill in fact was unconstitutional, I would not be standing before you here today. But alas, there seems to be a trending misinterpretation concerning this bill and the Second Amendment in general. The ability to carry a concealed handgun for personal use and protection is not a right granted by the U.S. Constitution whatsoever. The Second Amendment clearly provides for citizens to bear arms for universal military obligation and a well-regulated militia in order to maintain the security of our country. Nowhere in the Second Amendment does it say that citizens are given the right to conceal and carry personal handguns. Now, the supporters of this bill and I are on common ground, however. We stand before you today concerned with the safety of the people. It's too bad that concealed handguns are not an effective form of self-defense. A November 2009 peer-reviewed study published in the American Journal of Public Health by Charles Bernas found that someone carrying a gun for self-defense was actually 4.5 times more likely to be shot and killed during assault than an assault without a gun. Attackers often surprise victims, making it difficult to even use a concealed handgun in the first place. Carrying a concealed handgun increases the chances of a confrontation escalating and turning lethal. The chances of a handgun being used inappropriately also increase when normally responsible adults are intoxicated, tired, afraid, or untrained in conflict resolution situations. Although Bill 301 clearly states that all firearm carriers must be certified in a gun safety course, some states do not even require any hands-on training to get said certification. All that is needed is a passing grade on a written test. Carrying a concealed firearm would also raise the nation's suicide rate, seeing that 55% of all suicides in the U.S. are impulsive, and carrying a handgun gives individuals the means and the ability to act on their impulses. And clearly these suicide attempts would be more likely to be fatal when involving a firearm. House Bill 301 is generalized and does not point out the specific situations where a gun would be a necessary solution. Guns are not a solution whatsoever, and in fact they are the problem. Think back to the whole Trayvon Martin situation not too long ago. The unarmed 17-year-old was killed by the neighborhood watchman based solely on his personal suspicions against him. This experience could easily become a common occurrence with any one of us if we allowed the concealment and carrying of guns everywhere. Thank you for your time, and I strongly urge you all to vote no to House Bill 301 for the safety of the United States people. I yield my time back to Mr. Murray.
Your party's time is up. I will now yield 3 minutes plus the additional 15 seconds that you reserved to Mr. Temple.
Going off what the speaker just said, we're not at risk for spontaneous attacks. Let's look at modern history. Aurora, Colorado. A man sitting in the front of a movie theater turns around and shoots a lot of people, killing many innocent people that did not have guns on them. And the mosque in Wisconsin, a man with no motive at all goes in and shoots up a mosque. We're not at risk for spontaneous attacks. That is wrong. And I would also like to point out the fact that nowhere in any speech made today did anyone say that this bill is that not allowing conceal and carry is unconstitutional. So that point is nowhere to be found. I would now like to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Matthews.
I am in support of HB 301. I just want to give you a story about a woman that would have helped her if conceal and carry was legal. A survivor of a mass shooting in Texas, which her parents were killed. She went for a gun in her purse and remembered that she left it in her car to obey the law that was in Texas at the time. 23 people died that day. It was written by Brian Slupsky. I myself have never been in any situation like this, and I hope none of you have been either. Would you want the right to carry a gun to protect the people around you and the ones you love? There will be restrictions if this bill does pass. You have to be at least 21 years of age, a citizen of the state at least 1 year, must be physically stable by the tests, and must pass a gun safety course with certification. If someone did a major crime that involves guns, violence, drugs, or alcohol, will not be allowed to conceal and carry a gun. I think that these rules are good enough for anyone to be able to carry a gun because it'll only be given to the people who are responsible enough to carry them. I think that you should vote yes for this bill, and I am in support of HB 301. Thank you. I yield my time to Mr. Temple.
Also, I'd like to go back to what my colleague said in the suit over there. He said you can be reckless with a gun, but can't you be reckless with a car? Can't you be reckless with basically anything? So what he's saying is that we should make cars illegal. I mean, that's not a true statement at all. I'd like to yield the remainder of my time back to Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you. We will now. You can't use this with no advantage.
Mr. Speaker, I request the floor for 30 seconds.
Of course, granted.
What?
Was granted.
All right. Just a few things. One, Mr. Temple, I don't believe I said the word
Oh, thank you for your
reckless.
time, Mr. Keenum. I'll now yield the remainder of my time back to Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I request the floor again for another 30 seconds.
Deny.
25.
We need to move on. We need to get to a
Work
vote.
with me,
We have
25.
3 more bills to go.
Granted.
As my congressman from across the aisle stated, one, you're putting words in my mouth. I never said the word reckless once in my entire speech. Two, the movie theater shooting in Colorado wouldn't have happened if guns were illegal in the first place. And also, that shooter happened to have assault rifles, not concealed firearms that you can put in your pocket in your pants. And three, it's still unconstitutional no matter what you say, because I read the Constitution, I read the Second Amendment.
Point of order, your time is up.
And you don't make sense. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to press the floor for 30 seconds.
What?
I'd like to press the floor for 30 seconds.
Point of order. It's up to the
He had
speaker.
15 seconds remaining, though. Just for time, we're just doing 3 minutes for closing remarks.
That is unfair. Okay, whatever. Didn't you just say we're moving on to closing remarks?
We're 3 minutes for closing remarks. Mr. Conroy, please come down here for 3 minutes.
All right, I'd just like to start off by going back to the shooting in Colorado. The guy did have an assault rifle, but do we know that he had a FOID card and had a license for conceal and carry? Members in that audience, if they had a conceal and carry license, they would be able to protect everyone in that theater. Okay? And going back to the facts that were stated, they back up every point in conceal and carry. Okay? Robbery rates have gone down, murder rates have gone down. The facts do.
Point of order, you cannot point of information. Thank you.
And my congressman over there did cite his sources. That's what I'm referring to. And this bill is not perfect. I will admit it. But we are human. Nobody is perfect. Okay? This bill will protect our country. It will make us safer. And that's all I have to say. I yield the floor back to the speaker.
We will now go into recess for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you have.
Sophie, tell me, where are we going? Okay. Good. Let's start. Hi, today we have Jake Temple. I have a couple questions for you. Do you consider conceal and carry to be a constitutional right?
No, clearly the constitutional right says for a militia that they can carry guns. It's not a constitutional right. No one ever said that, so it's not a constitutional right.
Do you think conceal and carry would have an effect on criminal violence?
Yes, it's been backed up by many facts as stated by Mr. Jordan that crime rates have dropped because criminals have been deterred from experiences with someone concealing a weapon.
What are the requirements to attain a conceal and carry license?
Well, according to Illinois.gov, the FOID card, in order to get a FOID card, you need to have a background check. And this bill clearly states that you need a FOID card in order to get a conceal and carry license. So you'd have to have a background check, you have to pass a gun safety course, and so there's no flaws. I don't understand where they're coming from. So.
Thank you. With us, I just have a few questions for you. Do you consider conceal and carry to be a constitutional right?
Yes, I do, because I mean, you have the right to happiness, and and safety. So if someone feels safe carrying a gun concealed, and I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Which side, as an observer, had a bigger influence on you either way?
I feel that the supporting side had a bigger explanation, more like stronger points to carry for conceal and carry. So I feel like that kind of helped me go more for conceal and carry.
Do you think that conceal and carry would have an effect on criminal violence?
I believe that if you can conceal and carry a gun, people would be afraid that who has a gun. So I feel like if they're afraid, they wouldn't pull out the gun because they're not sure what the repercussions were. I feel like criminal rates would drop intensely.
Okay, thank you.
43 yes votes, 37 no votes, and 13 abstains. The bill passes. We will now go on to the next bill, House Bill 101, legalization of marijuana.
What's the order?
I will now grant 5 minutes to Bailey Lesota for opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to a paper by Harvard economist Jeffrey Myron that's gained the support of more than 300 of his economic peers, legalizing marijuana could save the U.S. government $13.7 billion by eliminating prohibition enforcement costs and adding billions in tax revenue. Including cost revenue, 2007 study found that enforcing marijuana prohibition could save $41.8 billion annually. Tax revenue from medical marijuana dispensaries is already giving state and local budgets a much-needed boost. Oakland, California, for example, inhaled $1.4 million, or 3% of the city's total business tax revenue from medical marijuana dispensaries last year, reported the New York Times. Marijuana growers account for $14 billion a year in sales in California, making it the state's most valuable cash crop. In 2011, Colorado pulled in $5 million in sales tax from medical marijuana businesses, the New York Times also reported. Dispensaries not only will bring in tax revenue, but one dispensary gives 75 jobs. The marijuana industry is a huge job creator. The chain has opened stores in California, Arizona, and most recently, Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, in Harborside Health Center, the biggest medical center, Meanwhile, Harborside Health Center, the biggest medical marijuana dispensary in Oakland, employs over 120 people. Just aside from the tax revenue, marijuana is a huge medical use. It is a huge medicine. In AIDS, it can help with the wasting syndrome of the person and help with appetite. In arthritis, the ancient Chinese have been using it for years to undo rheumatitis. I have personally sat by and watched someone that I cared about die. They couldn't eat, they couldn't do anything. I have personally sat there literally 6 inches from them, touching them, watching them die. It is a life-changing event, and I would have felt a lot better knowing that maybe if they would have been able to use marijuana in some way to help them get through what they were going through. It's not easy, and I feel like this could help not only the people in our lives, but in everyone's life. You don't have to just use it to get high or make your head feel fuzzy. You have drugs that can already do that. This drug can help actually people with cancer, people with arthritis, people with autism, brain tumors, cancer, Crohn's disease, depression, diabetes, fibromyalgia, glaucoma, insomnia, liver fibrosis, mad cow disease, migraine, multiple sclerosis, seizures, Tourette's, and those are just some. The marijuana is not just for teenagers in high school to get high. Marijuana is a serious medicine that needs to be legalized to help those in need. Thank you. I yield my time to the speaker.
Ms. Lesota, did you yield your time to me?
Yes, she did.
All right, thank you. I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Temple for opposing arguments.
And now yield my time to Ms. Cowan.
Okay, to start off this, I'm speaking for Mr. Allen, who is not here today. And just to start this off, personally, I am for the legalization of marijuana. Yet, this bill is a poorly written bill. First of all, if you would please open up your packets, if you have it, your bill packets to this bill, and turn your attention to the synopsis. marijuana, it would not be allowed to, you would not be allowed to smoke it at work or school or be under the influence at work or school. Yet, if you look at Part 3, point 1, factories, businesses, offices, and private clubs will be able, you'll be able to buy your marijuana from those places. How is it okay to buy your marijuana at a business or your workplace, but you can't be high at your workplace? Okay, this bill is just poorly written. Also in Part 1, they said that marijuana is legal in 17 of 50 states. Since when has it been legal in 17 states? I don't know if they're talking about medical marijuana here, but it's only legal in 2 states as of like last month. It was legalized in Colorado and Washington. Oh my gosh. See, also, my biggest point is you can buy it from vending machines in factories, businesses, offices, private clubs, and other places not open to the general public. First of all, I've never seen a vending machine that can tell if you're 18 or over. As this bill states, you have to be 18 or over to buy marijuana. Do you have to like put your license in the vending machine? Like, what? And also, who is going to be giving these vending machines their marijuana? Is it going to be grown by private corporations? Is it going to be grown by the government and thus be, it's going to be regulated, like how much THC is going to be available? Places where alcoholic beverages are sold and consumed on premises. What? Like this bill does not make any sense to me. Like a vending machine, it's the only place you can get your marijuana from now on. If you pass this bill, honestly, it doesn't make sense. Thank you.
I'd like to point out the fact that we are voting on the bill, not the idea. Thank you. I'd now like to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. I'll now yield 3 minutes to Mr. Meridian for supporting arguments.
I'd like to yield 3 minutes of my time to Mr. Corona.
Thank you. My fellow committee members, I stand in support of Bill 101, legalizing marijuana. Although there is some controversy over this bill and the use of the drug, research has shown that it is safer than alcohol. When it comes to the issue of morality, it's not really an issue. It's your personal choice. The same way you get to choose to drink alcohol or smoke tobacco when you know it's detrimental to your health. I believe it is your constitutional right to be able to do this, and it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if it does not endanger the constitutional rights of others, you therefore have it. There are many benefits that come with legalizing marijuana. Time magazine states, aside from recreational use, cannabis has several industrial and commercial uses. Over 25,000 products can be made from this crop. This efficiency in making materials, it is clear that legalizing marijuana will bring income. It is estimated that pot is the largest cash crop in California with the annual revenue approaching $14 billion. And a 10-pot tax would yield $1.4 billion in California alone. Now imagine this in a national level. It's probably a fraction of the revenues that we could get from it. There's the economic impact, which would be the 1,000 jobs that are created in agriculture, packaging, marketing, and advertising. So really, it's a stimulus package. Not only would it create jobs, but according to Colorado, the Associated Press, analysts project that a tax revenue would generate somewhere between 5 to 22 million a year. An economist who studies has founded by a pro-pot group projects that as much as 60 million it would boost to 60 million by 2017. This is, of course, would help towards the national debt deficit. Another benefit that comes with legalizing marijuana is a decrease in, the illegal drug trade. If it's legalized, then you don't need to get it from your backstreet drug dealer. If you all recall, during the prohibition, alcohol was illegal, which then led to the rise of illegal alcohol and organized crime. This is what we have today: organized crime dealing drugs to our citizens because they can't get it legally. And as you all know, people are going to smoke pot whether it's legal or not. So I mean, you might as well legalize it
don't really trust that once it's all legalized that way, that it would start being produced and distributed by big name corporations. And I don't really trust big name corporations to make a safe and active product. I believe that big name corporations would just end up treating your marijuana as they do cigarettes. They don't care about your health, they just care about making another buck. So who just say they aren't going to make chemicals like tar and nicotine just like they do cigarettes and just get you addicted just so they can make another buck? So if anything, I would be more partial towards decriminalization rather than
I pulled Mr. Corona aside, and I'm going to ask him, I know you are for this bill. Where is the marijuana going to be grown at? Because if back alley sellers are going to be growing this, they can put whatever they want in the marijuana and legally sell it, and it won't be on their responsibility. So what do you think about this?
Well, the way this is set up, if it's being sold by private enterprises, then you think it'd be sold privately. So you think like the way they grow tobacco, I would think this is the way it's going to go, because it's very similar to that.
So do you think it would be on their fault if they had put any other drugs in the marijuana? Because, I mean, they're legal to sell it.
Do you mean to the private enterprises, or do you mean like backhand dealers?
Like backhand dealers.
Yes, and I mean, you could probably sue them for bad pot. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that should be part of the bill?
Yes, probably.
Okay, thank you for your time.
The 3 minutes are up. Please go to your respective voting computers.
One will just make me hungry. Two will help me out. Dakota, fuck you. Fucking smack me.
It's my bill. Oh my god. Thank you. I was like, where is it? Where'd it go?
Because I thought someone would hit it as they're walking past.
Okay,
So I
thank
put
you
it.
so much.
time do you need? 3? Then hold on, I'll have someone else go and I'll save the time to add it for you. Okay. Hey, Colleen, can you find Eric for me?
Same-sex adoption. Well, we have one more.
All 3 of them are here. Thanks. No, I cannot. Sorry. Overly. Eric. Hey, Missy. Missy. Get Eric. Eric.
No, it's something real fast. Hi, I've pulled Miss Lesota aside, and I need to ask your opinion. What do you think about their argument? It's not against the idea; it's against your bill.
They did bring up the vending machine part, and that was supposed to be removed. There would never be vending machines. Like, that is outrageous. What they were saying is true. Like, having a vending machine isn't okay. But, like, dispensaries are buildings, they're stores, there are people, cameras, people who will card you, those sorts of things. And the bill is just, it's really close to my heart because I watched one of my friend's moms die of cancer, and, like, literally, like, I touched her, watched her, I was there. It's really emotional. And the legalization of marijuana could have helped her. She couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't do anything. And like watching someone's heartbeat move from their chest to their stomach, it's hard to do. And I feel like it could have helped. And so I would feel a lot better today knowing that everything was tried to help her. And I just feel like not everything has been.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, for that. I'm not sure how much it is, but just the full thing? Okay.
Because they have opposing arguments first, so I also want to get some things about this. Because it seems like all they do is disclose what we say. So I kind of want to give them a chance to.
Anna, you'll go second. I'll have him go first.
Right? Or... Oh, this one's here. By Marengo.
All right, can you please return to your seats?
Victor seat.
49 no votes and 20 abstains, the bill fails. We will now move on to our next vote.
Mr. Speaker,
allowing home-
I'd like to bring up that we have 2 representatives not in the correct area.
Mr. Heinberg and Mr. Keenum, please return to your seats.
Point of order, a register has not been, or a complaint has not been registered to the Sergeant of Arms, so thus he cannot be removed from session.
We're running out of time. Okay. I'll now yield 5 minutes to Nicole Stewart and Kiefer Gill for opening remarks.
Bailey. No. Speak.
Do you think that a couple with the same sexual orientation should be allowed to federally adopt a child of their choice? Then you should vote yes on House Bill 310, allowing couples with the same sexual orientation to adopt a child of their choice. Therefore, both parties will have the same custody rights. The issue of adoption by same-sex couples has been a controversial topic in the United States for decades. As of right now, it's illegal in 2 states, Mississippi and Utah. Yet, many local courts in other states have denied this right to couples solely based off their sexual orientation. One of the reasons people are against this topic is because people feel as if their child will be bullied. But in reality, kids get bullied for many different reasons. I'm not standing before you saying that bullying is okay, but unfortunately, bullying is part of our society, and I don't believe it should be a factor on 2 willing people wanting to adopt. Just because a man loves another man or a woman loves another woman, they should not be denied their rights as humans.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, today 150,000 kids are waiting to be adopted. 30,000 of these children have been waiting for more than 5 years in an adoption center waiting for real parents. Last year, there were 120,000 families wishing to adopt. This leaves a large gap of unadopted children in the U.S. still. But even though there are children who need to be adopted, the government has made it nearly impossible for gay people to adopt. This is due to the common belief that parents are gay, the child will be gay too. This could not be farther from the truth. A study done in 1993 proved that there is in fact a gay gene, and that is only passed down from mother to son or daughter. There's actually a larger chance that if a son or a daughter is born from a heterosexual family, the child will become gay due to the genes in the family tree. No child raised by a gay or straight parent learns their sexuality from their parents. This is absurd and has no correlation to whether or not gay men and women should be allowed to adopt. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Point of order, they still have the floor.
Thank you. I'll now yield 2 minutes to Mr. Temple for opposing arguments.
And now yield 2 minutes of my time to Ms. Lasoda.
Thank you. A same-sex couple has, by definition, 2 persons at high risk for psychological disorders. The studies published in the Archives of General Psychiatry found that persons self-identified as homosexual in comparison to the general public had almost double the rate of suicidal ideation or attempts, substance abuse problems, and psychological disorders. One of the studies found that 78.6% of the gay, lesbian, or bisexual group suffered from multiple disorders. The Department of Health and Human Services reported that in 2010, in the 46 states with long-term confidential name-based reporting, gay men accounted for 78% of estimated HIV diagnosis among the males aged 13 years and older, and 61% of estimated diagnosis among all persons receiving an HIV diagnosis that year. Any of these problems would negatively affect an adopted child. When dealing with married heterosexual couples, agencies have been extremely strict in ruling out couples with risk factors, yet seem to be ignoring real risk when evaluating same-sex couples who want to adopt. What does a child typically experience when adopted by a heterosexual couple?
With having an adopted dad, he struggles with whether he should find his parents or not, what his mom or dad thought, where are his parents, what went on in their life, why did they give him up. It's really hard to be an adopted child. O'Leary, a writer and researcher for the Catholic Medical Association, states that while the public likes to romanticize adoption, the fact is that being surrendered for adoption by one's biological parents is a wounding experience. Dr. Phil, with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, a Master of Arts in Experimental Psychology, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Clinical Psychology,
Point of
states
order,
the
your
most
time is up.
important role is a same-sex parent. Thank you.
I'll now yield 2 minutes to Mr. Meridian for
2 or 3.
2 minutes for opposing.
All right, I'd like to yield 2 minutes of time to Mr. Bayrost.
Thank you. I would like to start off with saying that HIV has absolutely nothing to do with adopting a child. Additionally, the opposition has brought up the fact that if a homosexual couple adopts a child, the child will have a psychological disorder. I have no record of that, and I just don't think that's a very logical argument. Adoption for same-sex couples has many benefits that would change this country for the better. In the first place, it emphasizes pursuit of happiness. As written in the Constitution, every single United States citizen, no matter the sexual orientation, has the right to pursue what leads them to happiness. In addition, the child that gets adopted, as the bill sponsor has said, 150,000 orphans right now live without parents. With this bill being passed, we could greatly reduce that number. In the United Kingdom alone, 1.6% of homosexual couples are divorced. Heterosexual couples have a 43% chance of getting divorced, according to www.newsytype.com. Parents divorcing can lead to several more psychological disorders in the child. Additionally, it's common sense of the fact that as long as homosexual couples cannot adopt, even though this great nation is called the land of the free, they're not truly free if they can't adopt a child. Do we as Americans have the right to cripple someone's freedoms for the fact that they are different than us? The fact of the matter is no. In conclusion, adoption for same-sex couples should be federally legalized throughout the United States. It gives the couple their fundamental right to happiness, decreases the amount of orphans, and gives the couple and child the freedom to be happy. We should no longer stand on the lines that divide us, but rather erase those lines so that we may be closer together as a
Point of
country.
order, your 2 minutes are up.
Thank you. I yield my time to Mr. Speaker.
I will now yield 2 minutes to Mr. Temple for opposing arguments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's one question that makes me oppose this bill is, if two male parents are raising a female child, where does that female child go for female things, like going through puberty or going shopping or something? I don't know. Women things. I don't know women things. Where would she go for any of that? I believe she needs at least one female parent to correctly be raised. So that's just... I give the remainder of time to Ms. Clark.
I'm speaking on behalf of a fellow representative. My fellow committee members, I stand in opposition of House Bill 310. A traditional family is far better for the children than a same-sex family. Children with same-sex parents are at big disadvantage. First, embarrassment, degradation, deprivation, humility, confusion, hurt, pain, shyness, hostility. Any sexual deviation is abnormal and should not be placed upon innocent children. Why do kids do better on every measure of social, emotional, and physical well-being when they grow up with a married mother or father? Because mothers and fathers parent differently. When disciplining, fathers tend to be rule-based, stressing justice, fairness, and duty, while mothers tend to be relationship-based, stressing sympathy, care, and help. Mothers and fathers also have different communication styles. Fathers are typically more brief, directive, and to point, while mothers tend to be more descriptive, personal, and verbally encouraging. Same-sex couples are unable to provide one half of this equation. In 1996, a well-designed study... I do not have one. Can you repeat that?
Questioning is for not making statements, is for clarification. Thank you. Point of order. That's not a question. You're making a statement.
It is a leading question.
The results of 2009 study of women in New York, Boston, and San
Point of
Francisco
order,
are
2
similar.
minutes are up.
Thank you.
I will now yield 2 minutes to Mr. Meridian for supporting arguments.
Thank you. The statement or speech that just got done by the Congresswoman across the aisle said that these children will face embarrassment, and she continued to list more problems that these children would face. But what is there to be embarrassed about? They were fostered and orphaned, and now they're given a home. Regardless of the sexual orientation, I don't understand what they should be embarrassed about. If you want to clarify, you can. Otherwise, I don't see where you're going with this. I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Ms. Lindstrom.
I rise in support of House Bill 310 allowing same-sex couples to adopt. In the United States alone, more than 143 billion children become orphans each year. Although 250,000 of these children do get adopted annually, more than 14,505,000 children grow up as orphans and age out at age 16. If something can be done to get more children adopted, then why is the United States not doing it? Legalizing same-sex adoption is the answer. By legalizing same-sex adoption, many benefits will come of it. Because homosexuals cannot produce their own offspring, they look to adopt to start a family. By denying them the right to adopt and start a family, is the United States government not taking away an unalienable right? The pursuit of happiness is a God-given right to commit actions that allow a person to pursue happiness. For many gay couples, their pursuit of happiness is starting a family, and by saying they cannot adopt a child because of their sexual preferences, the United States government would be taking away an unalienable right. Also, by allowing same-sex adoption, many children will get adopted, clearing out foster homes. Same-sex adoption increases the amount of couples who are able to adopt, which can move more children out of the child welfare system and into a stable, loving family. By removing young kids from child welfare system, it also reduces the financial burden to taxpayers. Another reason why same-sex adoption should be legalized is because many homosexuals can relate to troubled children.
Point of order, your time is up. I will now yield 3 minutes to Ms. Cowan for closing remarks.
Thank you very much. All right, I am strongly for this bill for many reasons. First of all, these disorders that the opposing argument was giving, these disorders are caused by the backwards, archaic, and ignorant viewpoints of the opposing arguments. You are the problem. No one else is. Homosexuality does not cause mental disorders. Point of order. Also,
Point of order, do not interrupt her while she is speaking.
thank you. Also, according to the American Psychological Association, there is no relation between children being raised by homosexual couples and those children having any psychological mental disorders or them being homosexual themselves. Also, according to Live Science, homosexuality is not a disease and it cannot be caught. And I strongly believe that if a child has no home and they are orphaned, that they should have the right to a loving home. This has nothing to do with them just going to a random home that they have homosexual parents. They will be raised in a loving home, and these couples will have to have the same stringent responsibilities that any other adoptive couple will have. Just for the sake of the children, pretty much, please pass this bill.
Colleen, yield the floor.
Thank you. We will now go into recess for 3 minutes before vote.
Wonderful civil discourse. You guys are the problem.
Here, go over this way. So, Mr. Wyrostic, how do you feel about Miss Lesoto's statements on relating HIV to adoption?
Well, I think it's completely preposterous. Are the children going to pass their HIV down to the children by adopting them? It makes absolutely no sense, and it was a pathetic attempt by the Republicans to get whatever homophobes they are. I just don't know. It just irritated me.
Do you believe Miss Lesotho is kind of relating it back to the issue on donating blood?
Yeah, actually, and I was going to say that, and it came into mind. I do think that they are still sour about that passing, but no matter what they do, they're not going to be able to get this to fail.
And do you believe that a child raised in a standard family will be less subject to bullying versus a child with same-sex parents?
To be honest with you, I think that a child's going to get bullied no matter what. At least they have a family to go to, a loving family that they can talk to about it, instead of maybe a family that's going through fighting or divorcing, which 43%, almost half of heterosexual couples get divorced.
Thank you, Mr. Wyrostic.
Okay, I pulled Mr. Temple aside, and so you stated that if there's a male and male couple and they have a female child, where do they go for womanly advice? But tell me, don't you think if there's a female child of two heterosexual parents, of which the father is the full legal guardian by a deceased alcoholic or absent mother, isn't it more detrimental to them?
Well, if there's heterosexual parents, clearly there's a mom and a dad, so there's a male and a female. So she would go to the female parent. I don't understand what that question is.
But what if the mother's absent to answer those questions, or not in the right state of mind to answer those questions, and leads them to the wrong way?
No comment.
Thank you for your time.
We are now going to a vote on House Bill 310. Will you all go to your respective computers?
Mr. Meridian, please get over here.
Whoever has my gavel, can you please return it? Also return to your seats.
Mr. Meridian.
Point of order? All right. With 60 yes votes, 18 no votes, and 25 abstains, the bill passes.
Did it pass?
All right, we will now try to squeeze in House Bill 110. Will Samantha Todd Haley Shaver please come to the front of the... I yield you 5 minutes for opening remarks.
Hello, my fellow congressmen and congresswomen. Me and my fellow representatives here, we stand here to save Planned Parenthood from federal cuts. Barring Planned Parenthood health centers from providing care through federal programs would cut off millions of American women and men from birth control, cancer screenings, and HIV tests and other life-saving care. It is shown that over 3 million Americans rely upon these services in the United States, and 1 in 5 women will use these services at least once in her lifetime. In addition, cutting federal funding for Planned Parenthood will ultimately increase the burden of taxpayers by way of increasing birth rates. Most of these unwanted pregnancies will rely on government funding for support. The reason Planned Parenthood is being attacked is because they offer abortions. But this needs to be reminded that abortions aren't federally funded due to the Hyde Amendment. Besides, Planned Parenthood offers more than just abortions, which account for only 3% of their utilized services. The tactic of relegating all of Planned Parenthood's work to strictly supplying abortions is not only misleading, it is offensive. Finally, the fact that Planned Parenthood offers contraception to so many families reduces the amount of unwanted pregnancies and therefore reduces the amount of abortions this country could be having. And some of the statistics of the services that Planned Parenthood provides, 35% of all services are contraceptive services, 34% are STD services, and 17% are cancer screening and preventative services.
If the federal government were to cut Planned Parenthood funding, abortion would be more common due to the fact that people are not receiving pregnancy prevention services such as free birth control. If the federal government were to cut funds on Planned Parenthood, they would also be cutting 41,000 STI HIV screenings a year, along with 39,000 annual exams and about 40,000 breast cancer screenings that take place in a year through Planned Parenthood. These statistics show how vital Planned Parenthood is and the devastation that would behold if there are no Planned Parenthood funding. In many ways, Planned Parenthood is a very reliable resource, and if the federal government were to take their fundings away, a lot of people would have nowhere to receive their little to no cost health care. Not only is Planned Parenthood helpful for people with low income, but it also helps for young people who don't feel comfortable talking about their sex life. Planned Parenthood is 100% confidential. We as a group ask you to stand in support of House Bill 110, stopping government from defunding Planned Parenthood. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to press the floor.
Granted for 30 seconds.
I'd like to move to call a question on House Bill. Whatever, it's seconded.
All right. Committee 1, all in favor of calling the question? Committee 2.
It's going to pass.
Committee 3. Committee 4. It passes. Please go to respective voting computers.
Hey.
Huh?
If voting is not completed within 2 minutes, this bill will die, so.
Hey, Colleen. Just make sure you gave this up. She doesn't agree with vote. Tommy, abstain. Or no, abstain. I'm not into it. I'll get them if you pay me. They're going to change.
After you're done voting, please return to your seat. You're not allowed to leave yet. We have not adjourned. The bill is wrong. None of these are official. The bill dies. We are now adjourned.
Nice work, everybody. You know that's a lie. You can't, look at what you had to overcome today. You did a great job.
Oh, yeah. I have to give you back your gavel, too.
You can put it in one of the...
All right.
Awesome job. Good job, guys.